It's spring in South Korea, which means cherry blossom, new life, and lots of filthy air. In fact, these days, South Korea's air quality is pretty bad throughout most of the year. The country has the worst air quality among the 35 nations of the OECD. It's now a common occurrence for your phone to start buzzing wildly with the latest bad air warning from the government. A lot of the crap that South Koreans have to breathe in comes from particulate matter, otherwise known as fine dust. Now, these are tiny particles, way smaller than the diameter of a human hair. They get into your lungs, then they enter your bloodstream, they even make their way into your brain and your nervous system. This is a big problem in South Korea these days, and demand for a solution from the government is growing. Most people agree that the fine dust in the air on any day in Korea comes from both South Korea and from China. The problem is the proportions. How much comes from South Korea, how much comes from China? South Korea's Ministry of Environment has claimed that around 30 to 50% of the fine dust in the air usually comes from China. That means that 50 to 70% comes from South Korea itself. We can't just blame China. On top of that, various different studies have produced different conclusions at different times. In mid-January this year, researchers found that most of the fine dust hanging over Seoul came from Seoul and Korea. But in March, another study found traces of fine dust at the Lunar New Year in China, where they had lots of fireworks displayed, and made its way over to Korea, proving, apparently, that China also can affect the fine dust in Korea. On top of that, the levels of fine dust vary from day to day, according to the weather patterns and the wind patterns in the whole Northeast Asian region. The actual science of tracing the origins of fine dust is still in its infancy. We really don't know on any given day exactly where the dust has come from. But even if half the fine dust in the air in South Korea did come from China, surely South Korea should be doing all it can to get rid of the 50% that's generated at home. South Korea's Moon Jae-in government promised to reduce South Korea's own emissions of fine dust by 30% by 2022. But so far, it hasn't taken a whole lot of concrete actions to achieve that. But the government's fine dust plan does include some specific aims. First of all, they want to put more electric vehicles on the road. Second, they want to cap fine dust emissions from industry. Third, they want to increase the proportion of energy generated by renewable sources. Unfortunately, until the government gets a grip on the source of the fine dust, all you can do is try and protect yourself from it as an individual. The main ways you can do that: by using a mask every day when you go out, especially when fine dust is bad. Make sure you check the label to see whether it's been rated KF80 or KF94. KF is Korea Filter, a certification from the Korea Food and Drug Administration. And by buying an air purifier to use in your office or at home. Unfortunately, you have to pay the cost for these things, even though somebody else generated the fine dust. If you think it sucks, why don't you keep the receipts from your face masks, from your air purifiers, and send them with an invoice like this to South Korea's Ministry of Environment. The ministry probably won't pay you back for your invoice, but at least you'll be making a point. And the more people send them, the bigger the point. You can download an invoice form and find the ministry's address on our website at www.careerexpose.com.